Well, okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. We are excited that you're here with us today on our live recording with Red Worldwide with our co-working. And so we're excited that you all are here to be a part of what we are doing. And as we are jumping in today, we are remote, which means that we are on mobile. And so this is the first time we've ever done this on mobile. And we want to make sure that all of you guys who are here with us, that you are aware that this is an experiment. Okay. Um, we've tried to bring you different type of experiences, and of course, today is Tech Thursday, and so on Tech Thursdays, we do a lot of things with technology. We've explored some different types of softwares. We've looked at different types of environments. We've shared all kinds of um, backgrounds with you all that would help you to um, become more proficient in your businesses. And today we're experimenting with how to run a company on a mobile device. Okay. And so that's been quite the experiment. And as we travel, sometimes we've had this uh, kind of situation to happen where we were in a place where we had to adapt, and based on whatever the climate was, whether the internet was bad because we were in some type of remote location, or whether we were in a situation where we just didn't have enough of the resources. Our batteries had died, and for whatever reason our backups weren't working the way they were supposed to. We had to adapt. And so today we're in one of those situations where we have to adapt. And as we have been learning more and more about tech, one of the things that we have learned is that there are lots of remedies that we don't even know are there until we have to use them. So today we're having to use them. So what we're going to do in today's session, earlier today, I was meeting with some of our clients who are have the nonprofit organizations working very, very, very well, but they have run into some situations where they really needed to get more funding. And we've been talking about how do we provide funding opportunities, or make sure that our clients who are looking for funding, have the ability to gain access to funding. And it's been very important to us to make this something that each and every person who has a nonprofit or a for-profit, that they understand how do they get access to funding, what is it that they can do, and how quickly can they make it happen, what are the criterias that they will need to meet in order for them to get into the funding mode of what it is that they will have to do, for making those things possible. So with that said, what we're going to do is we're going to share our screen, because we are looking at some of those opportunities even right now. And I know I've seen a couple of people that just joined. And so just let me share with you what we're doing today. We are showing how to gain access to funding. A lot of our clients are running into the same situation. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that they have funding available, and with that opportunity of having a new business, or a business that maybe even has been running, but you're running very lean. Sometimes having an infusion of capital at the right time is really, really important. So some things that I want you to be aware of is that one of the first things you need to do is, whether you're a nonprofit or a for-profit, if you plan to try to get funding from a government source, you have to register first through the System for Award Management. And so in a minute, I'm going to take you there. I'm getting set up with my I actually have a couple of computers running here today, well, a couple of tablets. Okay, I share with you guys we're remote, so a couple of tablets today that are running, and we're going to share the screen of one of them so that you guys can see what it is that we'll be, looking at in a very few minutes. So give me just a second, and I'm going to switch and show you all what it is that we need to see. Okay, so you all should be able to see my tablet screen, and I'm going now to take us to to the System for Award Management, which is sam.gov. Okay, all right, here we go. All right, so what the System for Award Management is it is okay, we didn't quite make where we're supposed to go. Let's try that again. sam.gov. There we go. All right. Okay. So we've got quite a bit of tabs open. Let's close some of these so that you guys are able to see, not have to worry about getting cut off here. Okay, there we go. All right. So the System for Award Management is the government system that they utilize for getting funds or funding opportunities or bid opportunities to people in the United States who are registered, with them in the proper manner. And so, with that said, I want to just take you to their site and show you what it is that you will need to do to get registered. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to move me out of the way so that you guys can kind of see better of what we have here. On their site, you'll see that this is the official U.S. government system for contract opportunities, contract data, wage determinations, federal hierarchy, assistance listings, entity information, and this are learning about who the entities are that are registered there and people who do provide disaster response, exclusions, people who cannot do business with the government at this time, and responsibility. Okay, qualification, so all of this is there. Entity reporting. So they have this one system that manages all of these things. But in order for you to participate in any of the government opportunities where you'll be able to get a grant or to register to contract, you have to be registered in this system. If you're not registered in the system, you cannot participate. So I have to share that because I want you to be aware that this is really the gatekeeper, for whether or not you can do business with the government, whether you can receive a grant from the government, whether you can get into any type of contracting opportunity. And a lot of your municipalities, whether that be your cities, your counties, some of the states, they all rely on this system to know whether or not a person is in good standing to be able to do business. So sometimes people say, well, I don't have to register with SAM because I'm not going to be getting any federal monies. But that is not necessarily true. Some other entities will sometimes look through SAM and use SAM to decide whether or not you can do business with them. So it's better to be safe than sorry, or for that matter, wishing later that you had done it, and just go ahead and get registered. And so getting registered with SAM is very, very simple, but some of the questions, that they ask can sometimes seem daunting, but really it's not. It's very straightforward. A lot of the times the questions that they're asking just don't really apply to most people. And so when they are looking at it, they're like, well, I don't know for sure this or that. And so this is the reason why at Red Worldwide, we provide classes so that you can learn how to get registered. And we will even help you go through the registration process. Okay, so the very first thing you need to know, in order to register with SAM, you have to first have a login.gov a login.gov login. Okay, so this is your login that is required in order for you to be able to participate, in any of the applications for the federal government. Okay, so when you go to login.gov, if you want to create an account, which is what you'll have to do, if you don't already have an account, you'll need to press the button or the link on the menu bar that says create an account. And then you'll walk through the process of putting in an address, an email address. You'll have to, get them a secure password, and you'll need one or more authentication methods. Now, let me just say this about authentication methods. If you're not planning to have your phone sitting next to you, okay, then you will probably need to be very much aware that you do not want to do two-factor authentication using your phone, because if something happens where your phone is not where you're located, then you won't be able to log in to your whatever account that you're using the login.gov for. And login.gov is, once you set up an account here, you can actually use it to get into the IRS's website in different areas, like if you need a transcript for your company or for yourself individually, or if you need to file your 990 in because you are an entity that's a nonprofit that makes under $50,000. If you need to use any other site that the government has where it requires that you log in, the login.gov is going to be important. So based on that, you want to make sure that based on the kind of computer or tablet that you're going to be using, you only use an authentication method that is going to work for you. And I'm saying this because I've seen people do it where they set up the two-factor authentication, with sending a text message or, requiring face or touch unlock, and they don't have their phones near them, and their tablets don't necessarily do that, or their computer is not a touch screen, and they've put these things in there and now they can't use them. So I'm saying that if you want to use a more secure method, just make sure you use a method that you're going to be able to keep up with, should something happen that you want to utilize your computer or tablet without your phone being right next to you. So that does give you some backup codes as an option. And I would say if you are the person that's not going to have your phone, then just use the backup code if you need the two-factor authentication. Now, you may not need two-factor authentication, and if you don't, then don't use that part. But if you do, just make sure you go through those processes. So once you set up your login.gov, then you'll go to sam.gov, because after you set that up, then you'll have to go back over to SAM so you can use your login.gov to log in. So what will happen is when you go to the section where it says sign in or get started, which is what we're going to do today, we're going to get started with registration and the unique entity ID. Now, what happens here is as you're going through this process, it's going to give you all of the steps right here up front. It tells you that, it's going to give you information about your registration. And if you look here in this little white box right here, that I'm making a little bit larger, it walks you through every part. If you want to apply for federal awards as a prime awardee, you need a registration. A registration allows you to bid on government contracts and apply for federal assistance. And so those are the two main reasons why anyone that we're working with would be utilizing this system, because you want to get a bid for, some contract opportunity, or you want to apply for monies through the grant process. So in order for you to do any of those things, you will need to not just apply to sam.gov, but go all the way through the process to get a CAGE code, because you will need the CAGE code in order for you to apply for those other opportunities that we just talked about. So after you do that, and you have your go through the checklist to make sure that you have everything you need so that you can register. And so let's look at what's required here. To prepare for entity registration in sam.gov, okay, you will need to make sure that you have these items if you're going to apply for all awards. Okay, so you'll have to get a unique entity ID, which you can do from the other part of the site that we were just on. You'll have to put in some core data, that would be the name of your organization, your address, information about what services your company provides, and it will ask you, for when you got your company registered with the state, and all of these other types of information that is required for you to input into their system to let them know who you are. That's the core data. Then you'll have to make some assertions, and they will send you a over-the-air password or key that you'll have to put in as you get to certain parts within the system. So you'll need to make sure that you have really good internet and that you're not in a situation where, you potentially could get interrupted, because when they send the pass key, you may not get it, and then you'll have to, start again, okay, or go back to where you were when you get to a better internet connection. Okay, and so then you'll have some things that you'll have to represent, some certifications that you'll have to make, and that will include your NAICS code. So if you don't know what your NAICS code is, we went through NAICS codes in another previous session where we talked about the fact that there is a code that is assigned to every industry, and that code is a national code that has been set. And so you can go to NAICS.com, and when you go to that website, you can put in a keywords about your industry and find out what your NAICS code is, and try to get to the closest code to what it is that you do. Let's go there real quick so we can just see what that is like. So, for those of you who don't, you weren't here the day that we did this, you don't have that information. So this is the NAICS Association, okay, and on their site, you will see that there's all kinds of information that you can get with regards to your company, okay, and so this company provides, this association, they provide a lot of different types of information and research data and all of that. But the main reason why we're here today is to do a NAICS code search to find out what the NAICS code might be for a particular company. So if you notice here, when I clicked on the search key right in the window, it brought up another web page. That's right here in their same on this. It's another one of their associated pages that's on their website. And so if you notice, you'll see here that there is a drill down table that actually gets to specific industries. And as you get closer into those industries, like for example, if we click into real estate and rental leasing, you will see that it tells you how many businesses are in those industries. And then in the left-hand side, it gives you a NAICS code for the type of business in that industry that this particular code is associated with. So for example, we see down here, offices of real estate agents and brokers, it's 531210. That's the NAICS code for that particular type of business, okay? So in sam.gov, you're going to need that information. So you want to make sure that you have that ahead of time, because it's going to be very important for you to make sure that you're able to have all the information that you can certify, who you are, what type of entity you are. Now, some of the other things that you might need to have if you're going to be doing the bidding process, and you're going through having, to let Sam know everything about you, because you'll want to apply to have a contract of some point. There is a lot more information that you need to supply, and they will ask you questions about whether or not you've ever done any business, or do you have you ever been barred from doing business? And then once they ask all of these questions, some things like, that are on there that may not even apply to you, but you still have to answer the questions, so that they can rule out, the possibility of you not being eligible to apply. So that will be everything in the defense FAR supplement, and that also is going to be everything in the architect and engineering responses, because they have to ask those questions. They cannot assume that you are not in those industries. Okay. But then everybody, regardless of whether you're just applying for bids and financial assistance, or just applying for financial assistance awards alone, you will have to provide them with points of contact information. Okay, and so those are going to be to the people in your organization that will be responsible for receiving phone calls or any other type of inquiry to your organization when necessary, whether it be that it's coming from the federal government or other people that might be contracting with you. You have to make that information public on this form so that SAM, the System for Award Management, can provide it to whoever might request it that might need to know. So points of contact could be just your general point of contact. It could be your point of contact for technology. It could be your point of contact for support. All of those kinds of questions are inside of this application. And you could make the same person in every space. That person's name could be in every place on the application. However, just make sure that you are releasing information that you do not mind being public, because this is public information as far as the point of contact is concerned. Anyone with whom you are applying to do business with under a contracting position will have access to that information. So if you're putting a cell phone there, make sure it's a cell phone that you do not mind being public. However, I would say this to you: it's better for you to get a universal phone number for your company and utilize that number in the places where phone numbers are required for the point of contact. And the same thing with the address. It's better for you to use a public address for your business and not your home address in positions where this System for Award Management is asking. And they even ask you if you want your information to be publicized in their directory. That's important for you to say yes or no, and be sure that you're okay with it if you say yes, because any person in which you are applying to has access to this information through this particular centralized database. Okay. Now, moving past this part, I want you to be able to make sure that you are really clear on the fact that the request form, for their information is going to be pulling information and comparing what you put in this system with the information that it has access to at one or two or three different locations. Let me give you an example of what I'm saying. When you say the legal name of your business is a particular thing, it's going to compare that information with what you have put at the Secretary of State's location, right, online. So if you are, or if you did a paper form, whatever information you put out there to the Secretary of State, that's what this is being compared to. So some people have problems with filling out this portion of the application because they don't put the exact name that they have located in the Secretary of State's database. So please go back, if you put it at the Secretary of State's database as the ABC Corporation, and you put it in here as ABC Corp, it's going to be a mismatch, and you're going to get your application kicked back because they will not be able to match what you put in the system with what they have. And it's very specific. I remember when I put our information in there one year when we were starting another business, and I put STE for suite, but at the Secretary of State's level, the information showed SUITE, and it was kicked back for something that tiny. So, it said it was an an address mismatch. So you need to make sure that you put the right information. The other thing, as far as your physical address, now, many of us are using the iPostal one or some of these other virtual addresses. Virtual addresses will not work for SAM's system for the place where it asks for the physical address. It has to be a physical address where you do business. Okay, so that means that you may have to put your home address here if you're working from home, and then tell them to restrict the use of your address. Further in the application where it says, do you want your address published? You say no, okay, because you're working from home and you don't want people to have your home address. So physical address here, it means exactly that, a physical address. And many of the people that we have assisted with, going through this process have had their applications kicked back at this point because they were filling it out and they gave an address that was not a physical address that they could prove that they had the ability to do business from. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, if you're doing business from your house and you're renting your house and your landlord has a restriction on you not being able to do business from that location, or you're in some sort of a apartment or some other type of location that would require the business's name be on the lease or any kind of thing like that. And even sometimes when you're in a shared office space, you don't have a lease, because it's a co-working space, then that will not work on this application. Because what's going to happen is they're going to pull up the fact that, you're at this kind of location, and they're going to shoot you an email and ask you to provide a lease. And when you can't provide the lease, then they're going to kick your application back. So I would rather have you put on here an address that you can absolutely verify than for you to put an address that you cannot verify and back it up with a lease or some other rental document that shows that you have permission to do business from that location. Why is the federal government so bent on this? Because they have to be able to substantiate that, number one, you are a business, that you're a real business. Number two, that you have permission to do business, okay, from wherever you are. And number three, that if something gets sent to you at a location, okay, that it is your location where it's being sent. And so there is another place where it's going to ask you for a mailing address, and that could be someone sending a check. So let me give you an example of how that happened to us. We we had no idea that somebody was sending us $50 as a donation, and they were basing it on the address that was in sam.gov. Well, at the time, what was in sam.gov is what matched our articles of incorporation, which was an address that we were no longer at. And we had no idea that that check had been sent. And it did eventually get to us, but as a result of that, we got kicked out of sam.gov for a short period of time until we made a correction to our address and provided them proof that we were at that location. Now, this was many years ago now, but I'm saying to you that something that simple kept us from getting, and even though it was just $50, we needed that $50 in those years. And so just say, we need you to make sure that you are, putting yourself in a position where you can do business with the government. Make sure you have a physical address that can be verified, okay? Now, let me just tell you some of the ways that they will allow you to verify your address. If your organization is new enough where they can show that you can show that the address that's on your articles of organization or on your articles of incorporation is the same address where you are located and doing business. You have a bank statement with that address on it, or some other document that they'll accept, like your EIN verification, the SS4. And if the address is on that SS4, this is the same address that they can verify that's on your articles of incorporation or articles of organization, and also on your bank statement. All of those things match. And so generally speaking, you will have no problem getting that through. If you also have a lease or a rental document, that's signed, that also usually works to get that through. So these are things that you just want to be thinking about when you're trying to, go through this process. And I know I've spent a lot of time talking about the address, but there's a reason, because this is the main reason why many people don't get their documents through, and they don't get their cage code. I have some people that have been working for almost a whole year to get this through for this simple reason, because they could not pass the address verification. So I know it seems like a simple thing, but it is the hardest thing, okay, on the application, I think, to get through. All right. So then the date of incorporation, the state of incorporation, the national provider identifier, if you are non-US entity, they'll need that, So, but we've been talking only about people who are in the US doing business, with the government, and people who are outside of the US. There's a whole nother not webinar, but another co-working session that we're going to do with regards to that. Okay. But today we're just talking about people who are doing business in the US with the US. Okay. And if you are just getting funding, this is absolutely the most important thing that you need to make sure that you qualify with and validate, because if you can do this, generally speaking, once you put in your information from your bank and you put in a point of contact information, you will really have nothing else left to do but just to certify that you have not been had a situation where you have been debarred from doing business, and you are not currently or have not been in a situation where you have any type of felonies, or you are not currently in a situation where you're going through a court case. Those kinds of questions are on the application, and do understand that they will check. So you want to make sure that you answer those questions properly and not end up in a situation where you don't get the cage code because of the fact that you didn't answer those questions or didn't answer them correctly and honestly. Okay. If you're in a situation where you have been, you're re-entering and you're you're transitioning from prison, or you have served time at any point in time, and you are concerned that for whatever reason that your application may not go through, then use someone else in your entity for this application. It is totally fine for you to do that. Okay. And so there are questions on there that will ask, and they are going to ask more than once, because it's in two different sections on the application where it asks about, do you currently, or have you had in the last 10 years, a situation where you were convicted or, of a crime. And it asks the questions in certain kinds of way. And I don't remember the exact wording, but I do know that it asks about, these particular things in a way that it, you have to make sure that whoever it is that's filling this application out, that they're a person who will be able to pass that section if you want to do business with the government and if you want to get a cage code. And I must tell you this, because we've done business with the government. We have, been in a situation where we, have been either a partner on a contract or the primary on a contract, whether it's a city, municipality, or, some other municipality. You must understand that this is going to come up a few different times. And so you want to make sure that you can answer that question correctly. It even asks in some cases, do you owe back child support? I mean, it's very interesting, but these are questions that are on the application. So with that stated, you just want to make sure you're not thrown off, that you are aware of it up front, so you can make sure that you know who needs to be on the application for your organization to gain access to the opportunity to do business. Okay. So now let's take a look at these other things. The business organization start date, all of these things are things that you will have to make sure you have access to when you're filling out the application. And even though it's optional for you to have a website, I would suggest that you have a website when you're filling out this application, because the people who are actually going to be giving the money sometimes is not the federal government. Like I said, other entities use this app, the ability that they can see who you are to decide whether they're going to do business with you, even if they're not a federal entity. So based on that, you want to make sure that you have all of the ducks in a row and all of the information in there the way that you need it to be seen. So teaching somebody who you are by showing them your website and what you do every day, helping them to find you, and find out the information about you that's really important, for them to understand the kind of company you are endeavoring to be is going to be important. So make sure that if you have a mailing address, that it is a mailing address that they can actually get information to you, okay, and that your physical address is not a physical address that is someplace where you are not ever there. Okay, because that could end up being very bad for you depending on the kind of contract you're going for. Okay. All right. So, the rest of this information you can, get by going to the link. And I'm going to put this in the chat. And I'll also, make sure that it's in the comment section, because I think that each and every person needs to have access to this checklist and make sure that they have everything that they need, to register. That's going to be very important. Okay, so now let's go back over to the website. Once you filled all of this out and you get to the point where you hit the submit button, within about 7 days, you'll get something back. And then within 10 days, you'll have your cage code if everything was done properly and they don't need any more information and your entity is registered. Now, how can you get access to funding? Well, the very first place where you could go to learn about funding that's available through the federal government is grants.gov. And if you look down here in the footer section, okay, we see that the grants.gov link is there. So all you have to do is click on it and it takes you to grants.gov. Now you could use your login.gov to log in and look at opportunities that are available here on their website. Okay, you can search grants. You can actually, when you get to the search section, there are tons and tons and tons of grants in here. And so what you can do is you can put in some keywords, or if you already have been given some information by someone else that just told you, hey, there's this grant available, here's the opportunity number, you can put the opportunity number in here. And so, basically, by doing this, you can even, search by date range to make sure that you're looking at grants that might have been posted, sooner, rather than later, okay? Or you can, look at all available, which is a lot, okay? You can look at the, grants in ascending order, descending order. There's so many ways that you can see them. But for the most part, I would tell people is to, if you're looking for a specific opportunity that's already there, uncheck forecasted, because these are grants that are there that will probably, they're listed in there because they're grants that have already occurred that will probably be, listed again this coming year, or they're grants that they're expecting to push out, but sometimes they don't even make it. So we want to be careful that when we're looking in here, if you're actually looking for a grant today, where funding is today, you want to look at the posted opportunities, okay, that are in the realm of what you will be wanting to do. So we'll do a deep dive on this another day, but I just wanted to kind of show you, what's here. Now there's an education section that actually is a Learn Grant educational portal. And so here you have Grants 101, and it's going to take you to another section of their website where you can actually learn about the grant life cycle, the pre-award phase, the award phase, the post-award phase, getting started checklist, okay? And it tells you all about grants. And this is a very, very important part of this site. because everything that you need to know about doing or filling out an application with the federal government for federal financial assistance is in this section, all right? Anything that they want you to know about filling out these grants is going to be here. And so I want you to understand that so that you have the ability to, you know, get some free education. A lot of times I've seen people put on grant writing workshops and they tell you all of these things, and you know they skip the part of telling you, hey, you can get information and learn from the federal government about how to write the for the grant or write for the bid. And so it does, you know, provide you with, you know, information about the policies. It gives you a history of the federal grant policy, and how it works. It goes into every one of the sections that are really important for you to be aware of, you know, like the who's who, okay, and policy making. And this is just for your own information so that you'll be able to, you know, be aware of all of this. And we'll do a deep dive. We're going to do this again, but I just want to make sure that you understand how to get in here and get some of this information for yourself without having to have someone else walk you through every single part. Okay, so in this section here, one of the most important parts is grant eligibility. How do you know whether you're eligible for a specific contracting opportunity or financial assistance opportunity with the federal government? There's a section where it says check your eligibility, and you can go in here and go through the entire process to find out whether or not you're eligible to get a certain funding, or, you know, that you're looking to get. So we don't have time to go deep into this part today, but I just wanted to make sure that you are aware that this was here, because a lot of people, when they're going to look for, you know, grants, they don't even understand all of the things that are already available to them right here on the federal government's website, you know. And so there's lots and lots of really good information that's available in the education section, you know, even the terminology that's available there, grant making agencies, so you can be aware of all of the levels of funding that is available for you after you have filled out the sam.gov application, okay, to be in their system. So, I mean, and there is just so much here. I mean, you know, just lots and lots. I've been around a long time in this space, and I can tell you that, you know, back even in the early 2000s, or I should say, and I'm dating myself, but I would say even back as far as in the 90s, you know, we were able to get into the U.S. Department of Education website, and there were so many grants that were available that we did get access to for our clients at that time and people that we were working with. And we have come to understand that, generally speaking, some of this is rudimentary. It's not difficult. It is very easy for you to fill out the application yourself. Now, some of it you may need some assistance. Technical assistance may be needed, but for the most part, a lot of it, they provide you with videos. You can go to the class ahead of the time when you get ready to fill out the application. A lot of times they'll have a session where they walk through the parts of the application to help you, because they want you to get the money. The government does not want to, you know, have people not get the money. They want you to get the money. So that's why they provide you with the education that you need. Now, if it's a situation where it's a little bit more complex and you have to get a grant writer, it still behooves you to be aware of the process, because the grant writer is only operating according to the information that you provide them. But you need to be aware of what that information is that you need to provide them so that you can make your application go through a lot smoother. All right. So this is as much as we'll be able to do today. I was hoping to get to one other really significant part of the grant process, but we'll do this again on one of our Thursdays to go in and show you, you know, how do you take advantage of funding opportunities and where else you can find funds, for your for-profit and your nonprofit organizations. Well, this has been Patience Rose with Co-working Live at Red Worldwide, and we thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to you being here with us again next time.
Yay!
Yeah, so that was fun. So hold on just a second. I am
I just went to a class. I started taking a class on Saturdays about all that stuff. I have this whole folder over there, and I'm like, I couldn't keep going after I got the money.
oh no.
But that